lost track of what day it is. But we're in Sveti Nikole. The goal is to get to a town called Demir Kupia. I'm at a loss for how to pronounce these Macedonian words. So that's the goal. It's like 80 something kilometers, 1,500 feet of elevation gain. Yeah, so it's gonna be a tough day. There's kind of two routes to take to Thessaloniki, and the route I'm taking is like 8 miles longer, and it has 200 more feet of elevation gain over the total route. But looking at it a bit deeper, I could do the same amount of miles today, but climb more today and climb significantly less tomorrow. Or I could do the same amount of miles, climb less today, and climb more tomorrow. I don't know. I'm in better shape today than I'll probably be tomorrow. So I figured I'd catch the climb today instead of tomorrow. So that was my logic. So we will see how it goes. So let's get to it. The ride through Sveti Nikole was actually quite nice and rather uneventful. As I got outside of town, I found this really nice pedestrian bike path, whatever you want to call it, that was off the street. I always really like seeing these. It's definitely a comfort to know that, one, you're not an impediment to traffic, but also the relative safety that you get riding on a path meant for pedestrian traffic and bicycles. I stopped off to use the bathroom in the wilderness, and a few minutes after that, this guy came up to me, and he actually owned the vineyard that I was standing by and offered to let me try some of the grapes there. Best grapes ever.
Voda li nosiš tu?
Where?
Vaser?
Greece.
Tamo. No. No. Okay.
America, Budapest, Serbia, Sveti Nikole, Thessaloniki.
Bravo. 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 A, jesi Srbin si? Ili?
Yeah.
Srbin?
Me?
Ti?
America.
Amerika?
Yeah.
Bravo. Svo od Amerike. Dobro. Moj sin je bio u Kanada.
Yeah?
Moj sin. Kako se kaže, moje dete. U Kanada 11 godini.
Yeah?
11 godini, Jare.
It's beautiful.
Ovaj ide. A, ovdje si nosiš tvoj stvari, dobro.
Yeah.
Ajde. Beri malo skini, grozu.
Yeah? Eat one?
Pa idi.
I'll try one.
Idi. Ako ima zrelo. Kiselo, a? Kiselo. Malku da te osveže.
These are
Da te osveže.
best.
Ajde prije.
It's probably the best grape I've ever eaten. After that, I kept riding, and I was taking some actually really nice back roads. It was sort of like in America it would be a one-lane road, but it was a narrow road, very low traffic. Eventually it turned to dirt, which is fine. My bike's sort of what you would consider a gravel bike, so it was easy enough to handle. The scenery started to look very, very much like where I live in Colorado. You had big mountains to the west, but it was very dry and it looked like the plains where I was at.
and it definitely reminded me of home. It was actually quite nice. It was a very, very beautiful landscape. This region of Central Macedonia is probably one of the nicest landscapes I've ever seen in Europe. And I've been to almost every country in Europe, so that's really saying something. I really, really enjoyed it. The blend of rolling hills, familiar scenery, and small little towns. This had to be one of the best days of the ride so far. Definitely the best day in Macedonia.
This field reminds me of like the final scene in the movie Gladiator when he's like dead and he's walking back to his house. I'm pretty sure that was Macedonia too. The resemblance is uncanny.
It was a massive contrast between my first ride from Kumanovo to Sveti Nikole that was just pure wind and miserable, and beautiful scenery, perfect conditions, perfect weather, just polar opposites. After about 2 hours or so, I came across this. I couldn't decide if it was an abandoned train station or an abandoned house along the train tracks. It kind of looked like a combination of both, because once I got inside, there was a definite divide. It was all one building, but there was a wall that the only way to get to the other side of the wall was to exit the building and go to the other side. And one side looked like a house, but the other side looked like an actual train station where you could buy tickets and things like that.
Well, stopped off in this region of Macedonia. It is unimaginably beautiful. It really reminds me a lot of home before everything got developed and built over. It's like what Colorado probably would have looked like in, you know, the 50s, the 40s, the 30s. Like, I mean, obviously everything's a little more modern than that, but development wise, like it's just pristine and nice. But here's an abandoned house that we'll go take a look at.
Not far from there, I stopped in this little tiny town called Lozovo and got some water, got something else to drink, just sort of took a break. Everyone in that village was super friendly. There was one guy who knew a bit of English, and he saw my bike all loaded down, stopped and talked with me for a little while, and that was awesome. And then after that was the final push into Veles.
Here it comes, boys. Wonder if this is like mosque ruins, because a lot of the mosques seem to have a tower.
Once I got onto the A3 highway after leaving Lezovo, there was two things that I noticed. One was the striking resemblance to eastern Colorado as far as the scenery. It genuinely looked like if you had replaced the names on the signs with names like, you know, Platteville, Greeley, Evans. Like, I would legitimately think that I was riding back at home. You know, I had just gone east instead of west. It genuinely looks like eastern Colorado to a T. If you were just dropped off there in a plane, you would think, you know, and they give you a note saying, oh, you're in Colorado or Macedonia. You genuinely would not know. The other thing that stuck out is the highway and the roads in general are way nicer than the roads in America. It was kind of disheartening to think about all the money that we spend in the US for things like that, and in rural Macedonia they do it 10 times better than we do. So that's lovely. But either way, I was on the final push into Veles, and it was, after leaving that town, it was a pretty good climb to a certain point. But then the descent into the town of Veles itself was so much fun. I think I hit like 46 miles an hour going down this hill, and the road was smooth, very little debris and sand and gravel, and I just flew down that hill into Veles. It was one of those things that as a cyclist, it just makes you smile from ear to ear. It was a very, very lovely descent. I absolutely had a blast on that descent. But once I got into Veles, I was actually kind of disappointed. I wasn't disappointed in Veles itself. I was disappointed that I was supposed to stay in Veles, but due to the horrible wind and everything, coming from Kumanovo to Sveti Nikole, I just stayed in Sveti Nikole. But and I didn't have the time to just spend another night in Veles if I wanted to. So I was disappointed because once I got to Veles, it was such an amazing city. Like, there's certain cities where you just go to it. Sometimes you go to one and you're like, yeah, get me out of here. But other times you get to a city and you're like, there's just something about this place that makes me want to stay here. You know, it's amazing. Veles was one of those cities, and I stopped off, got some lunch, had a couple beers, but I didn't really have enough time to stay in Veles. So I soaked up as much as Veles as I possibly could, and then began the final push. This video's gone on long enough already, so I'm going to do the Veles to Demirkupia in its own video. Hopefully that'll be coming up soon. I had a problem with my password getting stolen for my Google account, so that's why I haven't been posting for a little bit. So my apologies. I'm going to get back on a regular schedule. So yeah, it is what it is. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.